What's going on, everyone? Bryce Gelman here. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 realistic trade options for the New York Knicks before the NBA's trade deadline. And all 3 of these guys are the most realistic options. They've been floated in the media. And they're also guys that won't necessarily push the Knicks into that upper echelon with the championship teams, Boston walking out after they've fired their head coach, Adrian Griffin, the Nuggets, etc. These trades will impact the Knicks in a positive way and help them go hopefully past the second round of the Eastern Conference, hopefully to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years almost now. So, first guy I wanted to talk about is the guy that I think the Knicks should get. I think that this is your number one option. It's a guy that solves your biggest issue right now, and that's bench production offensively, and that's Malcolm Brogdon, who is on the Portland Trailblazers right now. It was reported today, actually, by Ian Begley, Knicks reporter for SNY, that there hasn't been any significant talk between the two franchises, the Knicks and the Trailblazers, which obviously could change. There's another 2 weeks. The Knicks want to play it safe, wait until the price is at its lowest, which is what they've done in the past for, let's say like a Josh Hart. This would be by far the best addition that the Knicks could make without hurting their long-term impact or hurting their long-term outlook. You get a guy, Malcolm Brogdon, who's averaging 15 points per game. Yes, his field goal percentage is not great, but he's shooting 42% from deep. And I think the interchangeability between him and Miles McBride on that bench, because presumably you're going to have to give up Quentin Grimes in this trade. You probably have to give up Quentin Grimes, maybe a couple seconds or a protected first. I think that that's the most that I go in that trade because Malcolm Brogdon is on the tail end of his career. He's not washed by any means. He's still a very solid guard in this league, but he's on the back end of his career. So I don't think you sacrifice any of your future by trading for Malcolm Brogdon. It makes sense, though. And it will make sense if the asking price isn't absurd like anyone from the Jazz, from Danny Ainge. But this is certainly an opportunity for the Knicks to get better, to go back to what really worked for them previous to the Emmanuel Quickley trade, which was having a depth on a team that helps you against teams that are very top heavy. And right now the Knicks are top heavy, unfortunately, because that was their biggest attribute over other teams is the fact that they could roll out the 3 or 4 guys in that bench unit and they could reasonably have like a 10-12-0 run. Like Emmanuel Quickley, Hartenstein, like that was an incredible duo. And that was a great second unit, but that's not the reality of the Knicks anymore. So you go out and you get Malcolm Brogdon. That solves the Knicks' biggest problem right now. It really does. And Malcolm Brogdon, a guy who, as Brian Geltzeiler mentioned about a month ago on this show, that he doesn't turn the ball over. And as I mentioned, he shoots very well from beyond the arc, and he scores. He's an actual scorer. He could get the ball in the basket, and he could actually bring the ball up because you get rid of a Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes, yes, he's a 3-and-D. Yes, he's valuable to other teams in the league, but I think Quentin Grimes has reached his wit's end at this point with the Knicks. All the rumors coming out that he's not satisfied with his role within the team, even after the Quickley RJ trade, and then what he did against the Wizards, which, I mean, that it's hard to blame a guy for playing extremely poorly when there's 100 rumors out that your team is actively shopping you. But I think that was telling for where Quentin Grimes is in his Knicks career. So let's move on to number 2. And number 2 is Bruce Brown, another guy who his name has been floated in recent reports. He's a 3-and-D guy. Another one of those Josh Hart types. I think Bruce Brown definitely is a better shooter and offensively much better than what Josh Hart has been this year. But there are a lot of teams in the running for Bruce Brown right now. And, the asking price is a promising young player and potentially an unprotected first-round pick. That would obviously have to include the Fournier contract. Both of these deals with Brogdon too and for Bruce Brown would have to include the Fournier deal plus probably Quentin Grimes and then draft compensation. Bruce Brown does not address the main issue of this team, which is bench depth. and the lack of shot creation and offensive creation and playmaking in the bench unit. As good as Deuce McBride has been from beyond the arc, he cannot create off the dribble. As good as Bruce Brown is, he's a complementary piece. He's not a Malcolm Brogdon, which will be able to control the ball, who will be able to, be your Swiss Army knife on offense in that bench unit, just like Emmanuel Quickley was. And Bruce Brown's not that guy. Yes, if you trade for Bruce Brown, you're probably the most versatile defensive team in the league. I think you can't even say arguably with that. I think you are the most versatile defensive team in the league if you trade for Bruce Brown, which I'm sure is Tom Thibodeau's wet dream. But you have to look at the bigger picture here. You have to look at what needs fixing right now, what needs fixing the rest of the year. And that is the bench unit. You can't acquire Josh Hart 2.0 with Bruce Brown. And Bruce Brown clearly wants to come to the Knicks, just saying the other day, I think 2 or 3 days ago, that I'm a Tom Thibodeau type of guy. I get what you're trying to do. I understand you're not in the best of situations right now in Toronto, who is clearly looking to move Bruce Brown. And again, there are other teams that are looking to trade for Bruce Brown, along with Brogdon. Like, the Knicks are not the only team in the running for the 3 guys that I'm talking about, the third one, which I'll mention in a few. But there has to be a certain level that the Knicks will stop at, with all these potential trades. There has to be an area in which the Knicks won't go. And I think that giving Fournier, Grimes, and a protected first is the absolute most they should be willing to give up. Because you going out and acquiring one of these guys, listen, anything can happen. The Knicks could magically put it together. They could have Mitchell Robinson come back from injury. Him and Hartenstein are the best defensive center duo in the league. Maybe they stagger both, and maybe they play both of them at the same time. And everything, the Knicks' outlook could change for this season. And they could go to a finals. They could win an NBA Finals. Is that realistic? I don't think so. I don't think that they have the pieces to compete with Boston right now, who just looks like on a completely different level than all the other NBA teams. Will you be able to compete with the Denver? Will you be able to compete with the Thunder? Like, there are a lot of really solid teams in the NBA right now, specifically in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks, by making this move, they are taking themselves out of this logjam of teams in the middle of that Eastern Conference pack. Right now, they're 26-17. They're the 5 seed in the East, the 5 seed. And the 4 seed and the 10th seed are only separated by a few games. So the Knicks, by making this trade, that is what the intentional goal is by doing it. You are moving yourself into the upper end of the Eastern Conference teams. Not to say the Knicks aren't already there, but they clearly have an area which they need to fix. And again, as I've mentioned multiple times, is the offensive side of the ball with this bench unit. Because when you stagger your 2 playmakers, the only 2 guys on your team that can really take over a game, in Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, these guys will eventually get worn out down the stretch of the season in the playoffs. We've seen it the last, two of the last 3 years, with Julius Randle playing 40 minutes a game during the regular season, breaking down in the postseason. Julius Randle is a fighter. Both of these guys are gamers. They will go out and play in any game, no matter how they feel. They will suit up whenever they can suit up. They're not going to take a rest day. That's not who these guys are. So you are trying to add a guy who could give these guys the rest that they so desperately need when they don't need to be in the game. Where a Malcolm Brogdon could come into the game, both the guys could come out, Randall and Brunson, and he could lead the offense to actually compete with these other championship contender bench units. It's not like the Knicks are multiple pieces away from being competitive. They're already competitive. They are 1 guy away on that bench from being where they want to be, which is in that 3-4 range, maybe even 2. Who knows what's going to happen with Milwaukee right now? They're rumored to be interested in Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, the Mr. Game 7 loser himself. So we'll see how that all works out. But the third option here, and by far the best player in this grouping of guys that I put together, is DeJounte Murray. And DeJounte, just like Brogdon, just like Bruce Brown, has a lot of potential suitors, including the Lakers, who definitely do not have as much to offer as the New York Knicks. But These two are two situations right now for DeJounte Murray. He wants to be in a winning environment, but does he really want to give up the ball again in another place? And that's what he's potentially looking at, because both teams he can get traded to. There are probably other teams in the running. He will be the second or third option. On the Lakers and the Knicks, he will be the third option. And we saw how that all worked out in Atlanta. We saw what happened between this duo, this backcourt duo, which I don't think anyone, not anyone. Obviously the Hawks thought that this could have worked out. I didn't think it would. DeJounte Murray deserves to be the main ball handler in an offense. And from giving up that responsibility, his defense took a hit. His offensive creation took a hit. His shot selection took a hit. And do we really want the same outcome with the Knicks? Not to say that it will happen, but Jalen Brunson and Trae Young are very similar in the fact that they control the ball, that they are point guards whose primary job on the basketball court is to score. Is DeJounte Murray going to want to have to deal with that again with the Knicks? Sure, the winning might be nice, but is he going to throw a fit when his usage rate isn't what he wants his usage rate to be? That all remains to be seen. But if I'm the Knicks, I got to practice a little trepidation right here. I need some due diligence right now. If I'm the Knicks looking at DeJounte Murray, yes, he's the best player available probably on the market right now. But what does he do for you? Does he push your team into championship contention? It's a bit of a gray area. It's not as black and white as I think that the other two guys are. I think DeJounte Murray may actually push you into that spot. It all depends on how he fares in a situation like this. He's not the second option. Now he's the third option with the Knicks. His defense is his length, his defense, he's a big guard. And putting him next to Brunson, who's, obviously everyone wants to talk about, he's a short guy and a defensive non-factor. I think that could hopefully shake things up. But I don't think the Knicks are going to go out and trade for DeJounte. He's got a favorable contract. I don't see the Hawks willing to accept much less than what they took, what they traded for, or what they traded for him from the Spurs, the multiple first-round picks, unprotected, the pick swaps. They're going to want a similar return. Do I think that there's going to be a team that offers that? No. But if I'm the Hawks, I don't go out of my way to trade him when there's not a huge market for him. And I think it's helped that Trae Young's been out a few games and DeJounte's been able to show what, and audition for other teams technically. And he has lived up to the expectations that he had in San Antonio when Trae Young is not on the court. But that's not the case. And for the Knicks, it's not going to be the case where DeJounte Murray is the main ball handler for the team. Yes, it will help because, you'd be able to stagger the three guys. You probably play Randall and DeJounte together, and Brunson will get minutes by himself without the other two. But that is not – I'm not going to say that it's not moving the needle, but it may push the Knicks into championship contention. Do I think it will be worth the assets to risk the possibility? No, I don't. I don't think that the Knicks should give up the rest of the assets they have that they've been stockpiling for an A1 type of guy for a B type player, an all-star player, but he is not a guy that makes sense given what the Knicks have built up with the assets that they have. I don't think it makes sense. So again, I'm going to reiterate this right now to end this show. The Knicks desperately need to go out and get Malcolm Brogdon. If the return is not significant, which I don't anticipate it being, because he does have a big contract, it appears that, it's very clear that the Trailblazers are looking to move him. He doesn't really make sense in their long-term plans. And he has this contract, this albatross is a contract that I don't necessarily think correlates with how good he is. I think, for a team that wants to pay him that much, it makes sense, that believes that he fits into their long-term plans. But if the Knicks trade for him, he is not a long-term piece of this team. I don't believe that to be the case. He will be making he's $21 million a year guy, and he's might potentially be moved for the next superstar the Knicks go out and try to get. So all this remains to be seen. There's plenty of time still remaining until the trade deadline, the Knicks need to make a move. It's been rumored that they want to make a move. It's also been rumored that they are going to wait until the offseason to make that big splash that they've been rumored to make for the past few years now. But this front office, as proven time and time again, is patient. They wait until the right time to make the moves that they need to make. And this upcoming move that they've been saving all these picks and all these assets for is going to be that home run move and is going to need to be made at the perfect time, or else this Knicks team is going to falter like they have so much in the past. All right, that'll do it for this edition of, I don't even know if I'm calling it the BG show, of my YouTube channel, the show that I put out on YouTube. If you like it, please drop a like and a subscription down below. Thank you all so much. Speak to you all either later this week or next week.